Oh, dude, welcome to the 13 Days of Terror, man. That's some good shit.
All right, can we get him on the stool? There we go.
Yeah,
Sir,
I'm good.
just
I'm good.
Have a seat.
I got it.
Sure.
What am I doing here again? Oh yeah, I'm here to talk about Idle Hands, man. It's like this Cheech and Chong movie, but it's scary. And there's a third stoner dude in it. This movie's got a cool cast, man. It's got like Casper, it's got the Invisible Woman, it's got Fulton Reed, dude, like Flying V, man. That guy, yeah. Oh, and God from that one episode. So like Anton, right? He's like this stoner dude, like in that other movie.
Kick my ass! Woo!
He's got these two dudes, but they hold out on him at the beginning, and that's not cool, man.
Looky what I found. I thought you were dry. I guess not.
But he's got the hots for that dark angel lady. And like Anton's hand gets possessed by the devil, man, because he's lazy. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine being possessed because you're lazy? Man, I gotta go do some work,
No,
man.
hey, someone get him back on the stool. Oh my God! Just
I
sit
got
down.
this, man. I just didn't want
Can
my
we finish,
hand to get
please?
possessed, dude. It's cool. Where was I? Oh yeah, like Stan, man. He's got the possessed hand, right? And he's been killing people, dude. And the devil hand even cock blocks my bro once. Anyways, if you've got a devil hand you've got to have a devil hunter, right? And that's that one chick that was Will Smith's girlfriend in Independence Day, man. And that's it, man. I don't want to give it all away, dude, because it's a good movie. I'd recommend it because it's funny, man. It's like reminds me of my teenage years, dude. From what I remember, man. And it's got like these cool special effects, dude. Like they got practical stuff, man. And it's got like that thing that everyone's into these days. Nostalgia, dude. It's like a look at the 90s, man. It even had the Offspring in it, dude. And that guy from Blink that thinks aliens are real. Which they are, dude. It's messed up.
It's
What?
What's your favorite part?
Oh, my favorite part gotta be when dude kills Chris Griffin and Foggy Nelson, man. And that's not a spoiler. That's in the trailer, dude. They did a lot of cool stuff in that scene, man, and the effects are awesome. I'd probably give it like a B+, man, because it's a solid movie, dude. It's funny and it's shot well and the cast are hilarious, man. You should totally watch it, dude, and get high as fuck before you do. I mean, only get high if it's legal.
Stop!
Only if you're an
Oh my
adult,
God.
man, because that's
Someone
supplemental.
get him
Okay,
off the set. Get out of here.
The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror. Hello there, this is Brandon Jones, aka Sir Jonesius from Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast. I understand that you're here so you can find a film recommendation for Halloween. Have I got a film for you? 1997's Event Horizon, starring Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill. This is a film that's a lot of fun. Why? I really like it because this is a film about a derelict vessel that a rescue team is sent out to find. This team is led by Lawrence Fishburne, and Sam Neill is the obligatory scientist that they're saddled with, and they have to take out to the ship to find out what the problem, what the deal is. It is funny because this plot and a lot of the visual language you'll see in something like Dead Space, which immediately made that game appealing and satisfying for me based on that alone. Spoilers for a movie that's quite that old, but this ship has been around. And by the time they get back to figuring out what's going on with this ship, it's kind of nuts. It's incredibly satisfying. I think my favorite thing about it, if I had to pick one thing, aside from the psychological terror that they show you, it makes space itself kind of scary. What it means to be spaced and sent out there. Like, you know, if you've seen Expanse, you know, you got quite a bit of folks being stuck out in space and seeing that. This is one of the first times I saw that as a kid, and talking about the biological and physiological effects that would have on you and having it visualized. And that's in addition to the psychological horror and the physical horror that's happening at the same time. So I thought this film was really good at doing those things and combining those things and making it fun and scary. What I think is the true scary and tragic thing, this film has a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is just insane. I have no idea what was going on. And you would go like, Jones, why do you like such terrible movies? And if you would ask Danny, you know, he would just say like, that's your thing. Jones likes terrible movies. Maybe, I don't know. If I had to think of a single scene, the one that really got to me was what I was referencing, when you just see what happens when someone's in an airlock.
Oh my God. It's starting. My eyes.
Don't think about him. Shut him. Just shut him as tight as you can.
And they get pushed out in space. And I'm not gonna go beyond that, but just the tension that they were able to induce in that. If I had to give this movie a letter grade, I think I'd probably give it a B+ or an A-. There's just something about it. And part of that is it's 100% subjective. I saw this when I was still a teenager. And so there's just something about when you see movies at that age where they just stick with you. This is a film that is directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. You will know him from such films as Death Race and Resident Evil and things like that. So if you have seen either of those films, you kind of have some idea. For my part, I still think that this is probably one of the best films he's made, but we'll find out. Be on the lookout for an Interstellar reference, or no, other way around, a reference to this film in Interstellar. If you've seen Interstellar, or you've seen it relatively recently, watch this and see if Christopher Nolan was cribbing Paul W.S. Anderson's work. And, you know, if you do happen to see it and haven't seen it before, jump on Discord and let me know. If you have seen it before, you think it's one of your favorite films, or you don't like it at all, let me know. I'm really curious what you think. I think it's fair to say that this is a cult classic. Everyone that I talked to about the movie really likes it. I actually have never met anyone that has seen it and doesn't like it. So if you're one of those people, let me know. All right, I'll catch you on the next one. Hasta lasagna.
Night of the Living Dead. Not the original, not the famous classic that Romero created, but I'm talking about the 1990 remake.
It's weird, huh?
I am a fan of the original Dead trilogy, you know, that being Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. Great films. But in 1990, a remake was made of Night of the Living Dead, and I think it was brilliant. And everything about this movie, in my opinion, works. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, zombie film ever made. I think the only thing that might slightly be above it would be Return of the Living Dead.
Hold him down now. Hold him down.
What are you gonna do?
Be a man, Frank. Be a man.
I want to give a little more exposure to this film because I think outside of the early to mid 90s, people were talking about this film. I don't think people talk about it as much. I think it's been forgotten in many ways. I mean, there's so much zombie content out there these days, whether it's comic books, novels, obviously films. People constantly revisit the original, you know, Romero films, and they're great, and I recommend them, but this one deserves to be watched. It does everything it needs to do. It's a very simple story. The dead rise. A group of people find themselves in a house in the middle of nowhere. They're trapped, and they're trying to figure out what to do.
You don't think we've been through all this before?
Mine is broken down on the interstate, and the kid here doesn't own one, if you can believe that.
Do we board up the place? Do we go to the basement? Do we try to make a run for it? You know, and these are the conflicts that exist throughout the course of the film. The character Barbara is a standout, and they do a brilliant thing with her about halfway into the film that runs all the way to the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil it, but it's compared to the original, there's a vast difference in how that character is portrayed. The final 5 minutes of this movie is perfection. It's equally sad, and yet there's a great moment that'll put a smile on your face, and then there's that final minute or so in which you realize what the true horror of this film is. It's a great movie. It's a great horror film. The effects are very well done. There's some really good zombie effects and blood and gore and all that too. Yeah, I love this movie. You know, I try to revisit it often. It is, like I said, I think one of the best, if not best, the best zombie films ever created. This is an A+ for me. Definitely watch it. Yes, go back and watch the original as well if you've not seen that. You should see all those films, but also there's definitely a place, in my opinion, for Night of the Living Dead 1990 remake. I found it on DVD. I'm not sure where it's streaming now, if it is at all. Watch Night of the Living Dead 1990 if you haven't. Trust me, it's worth it. A+.
Hey, my name is MB Lucas 13, otherwise known as Lucas Malone. Subscribe to my channel, MB Lucas 13. Link in the description below. So we're here to talk about, let me think. Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks is about, these aliens or Martians attacking the world, and they come from Mars. That's why it's called Mars Attacks. The aliens look like weird-brained creatures that look a little horrifying, not too much. The aliens sound like this: dap 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 dap. The movie stars Michael J. Fox, Danny DeVito, Pam Grier, Jack Nicholson plays the president.
Why are you doing this? Why? Isn't the universe big enough for both of us?
One James Bond. I recommend you watch this because it is like it's like pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie.
What the hell was that?
I like it on like this much, as tall as me. My favorite scene is, probably when the aliens explode due to this, some people playing this song.
So you like it when the aliens get killed?
Yeah. When they start dying, they're like, their brain is like going wobbly and then they explode.
Richie, I think these guys are very sick.
It's not super scary because CGI did not look that realistic back then, so it's not too scary. My favorite thing of the aliens is when they turn the humans into skeletons with their blaster.
On a scale of F to A+, what would you grade this movie?
A+.
Why is it an A+?
It's because it's very hilarious.
The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror.
Hey guys, Kyle, Christine, we're here to review Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
So what happens when you get a bunch of dumb college kids interviewing a serial killer before his grand entrance?
Well, you get Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, Christine.
Leslie is played by Nathan Basil, and Taylor the documentarian is played by Angela Goethals.
She was one of the kids in Home Alone.
Kev, what are you so worried about? You know Mom's gonna pack your stuff anyway. You're what the French call les incompetents. What?
Not only that, you also have Robert Englund, who is the original Freddy Krueger as Doc Halloran, and then you have Zelda Rubinstein, who played Tangina in Poltergeist. This movie's great. It gives a unique spin on the slasher genre. You get like this really dark, twisted comedy aspect.
I go away for days, forget to feed them. Little bastards just won't die.
Turtles are good that way. Very feng shui.
And then one of the best, coolest slasher flicks since Scream, for sure. That's the original Scream. So Leslie's this guy who, like we said, wants to be the next Freddy Krueger. And it's all real stuff, no supernatural. And he's invited the college crew out to kind of document the behind the scenes. And you get some really funny stuff during that. Later on, you get to meet the victims, of course. There's that whole crew, but they're the kids. They don't really matter. Only the survivor girl matters, and that's Kelly. What's really cool is you get to see Leslie's mentor, Eugene, and his wife, and that brings us a really cool perspective.
So Eugene gives the perspective of the old school professional in this whole business of fear. Eugene actually has my favorite scenes, the scenes with his knife skills and the sensory deprivation chamber, and I like Taylor's reaction to it.
There's always been hacks out there. People mucking it up. One-hit wonders. Like a bloody mess of some sorority somewhere. Makes it bad for all of us. It just cheapens it.
That's great, honey. Why don't you go start the grill?
And I really like Leslie's like training regimen and his behind the scenes stuff. When he's showing how you nail windows shut or cut a tree branch so it breaks easily. And then of course, you know, training up, how much cardio's involved.
Why so much?
Well, you gotta be able to run like a freaking gazelle without getting winded. Plus, there's that whole thing of making it look like you're walking, and everybody else is running their asses off.
Oh, right.
And I gotta stay with them.
Yeah.
I really love the comedy of this film, and I like the documentary feel to it.
I might be a little biased for this. I got a custom freaking Funko made by my cousin Amber. The movie might have some flaws, but it's an A- for me. It's hilarious, it's dark, and it's a solid slasher flick.
Yeah, I would give it a B+. This is a movie I don't really tire of, so check it out.
The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror.
Tasty.
Motel Hell. It's a film I discovered with my father one evening while watching TNT's Monster Vision. I believe it was after midnight. We had seen a little quick preview of a film called Motel Hell. Looked very bizarre and interesting, so we checked it out.
Edie, where's my jelly?
Little did I know that a famous quote, well, famous to those who know the film, meat's meat, man's gotta eat. That's a thing that me and my dad say to each other, even to this day if we're at a cookout or doing something. The film is a cannibal film. It's a bizarre story. It's one that I don't even know how to describe. I mean, the basic premise is there's a brother and sister who own a motel, and they also sell beef jerky. And it turns out the jerky is actually made from a blend of pork and human. So that's the basic plot. There's sort of this weird, bizarre love story in there.
Well, see you later, honey.
The main antagonist, his brother, is the sheriff of the town, and he has no idea that his family are cannibals. It's an insane movie. One thing that really sticks out to me in this film is the soundtrack. I highly recommend the musical score of it. It's actually quite good. There's a lot of dark humor in the movie. There are times where I even wonder whether or not it was meant to be a dark comedy, but it takes itself so seriously. My favorite sequence in this movie is the final battle, if you will. There's a chainsaw involved. Little spoiler with the cover, actually, that is representative of this final sequence. I would honestly say, as a fan of horror, Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, stuff like that, this is this is my favorite chainsaw scene in a horror film. Just beautifully done. It's very lengthy. The setting of it is really cool. It's a cool sequence. It really does a good job topping off the movie. If you see nothing else in this film, look up that scene. It's that good. But I would absolutely recommend checking out this film if you're into bizarre films or if you just enjoy horror. I would give this film an A-, that minus simply being because it's weird. It's a weird movie.
I had a feeling you boys could get behind this.
If you like chainsaws, cannibalism, and humor that's considered a little dark, check out Motel Hell.
The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror.
It's the fall of 1998. Your parents don't give two fucks what you see in theaters, and you and your friends want to see stereotypical horror teens take on aliens with drugs. What are you seeing? The Faculty.
Harassment has a really fine line, Coach. Haven't you read your handbook?
I've always wanted to do that.
So The Faculty sees one-time up-and-comers Elijah Wood, Josh Hartnett, and Jordana Brewster take on celebrity aliens like Jon Stewart, Salma Hayek, and Usher. Yeah, that Usher. Frodo and company also have to take on the T-1000 and Shooter McGavin.
You're waiting for me.
Oh, you'll go. If I have to tie to the desk myself, you'll go. Oh, music.
It's porno.
Porno. Oh! Poop. Sorry, pal. No more flogging the bishop.
The Faculty is a twist on Invasion of the Body Snatchers with a hint of Scream. Our young heroes discover parasitic aliens are taking over their school, and they gotta put aside their social differences to stop the invasion. The Scream part comes from the stereotypical 90s horror teens and the meta-ness they use to fight the aliens, like using Invasion of the Body Snatchers as a reference point.
Okay, so what's missing?
Well, the body snatchers, they were pods, but where are they? Where are the pods?
There are no pods.
The cast is great in this, and while each one's playing with stereotypes, they handle it really well. There are some really legitimately painful moments in this. It's one of those films I recommend quite often because of the spot the celebrity fun and the cheesy one-liners.
Guaranteed to jack you up.
And while it's definitely a B movie, it's wrapped in big budget love for the genre. My favorite scene actually pays homage to another alien parasite film, The Thing.
Take a hit. No way, man. I don't do drugs. Oh, come on, man. If you're not an alien, you got nothing to worry about.
There are some negatives, like plot holes, such as how the did that thing travel from its home to Earth, and some silly Hollywood tropes like making someone ugly by putting glasses on them.
You want to talk slightly odd? What about you? You haven't been without your contacts or hairspray since birth?
This movie gets a B- from me. It's got a great cast, some cheesy goodness, some legitimate gross out moments, and a lot of fun. I love it despite its flaws, and you should check it out.
So, I understand you're interested in a movie recommendation for this Halloween season. Boy, have I got a flick for you. 2016's Train to Busan.
대길열차 부산까지 선로를 열어놓겠습니다. 관제실 이상.
Directed by Yoon Sang-ho, this film has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 95 from the critics and an 89% from the audience. I think I tend to lean towards the critic score on this one with a 95. This is a zombie film, so if you are a fan of this genre, this is a film that's going to be right up your alley, but it does a really good job of reinvigorating or reanimating the genre. Train to Busan is a film about a father and daughter who are traveling from Seoul to Busan via train. I mean, it's right there, the bus that couldn't slow down. What's really interesting about it is, so the father is seen as kind of a modern success story in the corporate sense. He is, I think, a stock trader, which is interesting because it is heavily implied that it's possible that he continued to trade the stock and drive up business for the company that might have been responsible for this zombie apocalypse. He and his daughter are traveling from Seoul to Busan to go visit his ex-wife. And of course, the zombie apocalypse occurs as it does.
국가 재난 상황을 발령, 국민의 안전 보장과 사태 확산 방지를 위해 최우선 조치를 취하고 있습니다. 다행히도 현재
you get to see this interaction between these different walks of life. So you've got the elderly, you've got young people, you've got, this success story, you've got what seems like chaebol, or people who are from these conglomerate families. There is a significant amount of social commentary that takes place here. So you get to see all these people in different parts of the train and how they interact. It kind of slaps you in the face sometimes, but I think it does a really good job of showing just the disparate situations that these folks are in. The action is really good. The director does a really good job of consistently making you feel just the tension of what's happening and what's going on. If I had to try to pick a very one scene, it would be really hard. But I think my favorite scene is one that I can't tell you about. It happens right at the end. I think that there is a really good story and relationship that happens between the father and daughter in this film, and you get to see the arc of the father as it progresses over the course of the film, and seeing how he and his daughter interact at the beginning of the film versus how they are at the end of the film is really something. And I've got to say, I'm sorry the name of the young lady is blanking on me right now, but she's probably one of the best child actresses you're going to see just based on her interactions with her father in this. But yeah, for me, this film is definitely an A. So if during this spooky Halloween season you are looking for a zombie film, go ahead and check this one out. I've heard bad things about the sequel, Peninsula, which is crazy because it's got the same director, same writer, but apparently it did not catch fire the same way. I haven't seen it yet, so if you've seen it, let me know. Should I watch it? Should I check it out? All right, we'll catch you on the next one. Hasta lasagna. The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror.
Ghost stories come in many forms, from ghastly pirates to psionic energy manifestations to obscure evil spirits. But is there any room in the genre for an evil f***ing room? 1408 thinks so, and so do I. This Stephen King short story adaptation stars John Cusack as a paranormal investigator and writer who receives a strange postcard warning him to stay away from the Dolphin Hotel's room 1408. And Sam Jackson plays the hotel manager, Gerald Olin, kind of playing a secondary antagonist. Sorta. Insolent is a sarcastic but burned out writer who's grieving the loss of his daughter. He's basically going through the motions of paranormal investigations of roadside attractions and famous hotels to write books for the Ghost Adventures crowd.
In your letter, you mentioned that the rooms with the most paranormal activity were in the attic. Could I have one of those rooms?
That's right, because the attic is on the 3rd floor, which is the former servants' quarters. People say that all of Sylvia's children died up there. of tuberculosis.
All of them.
But Mike doesn't believe in ghosts. He's never seen one on any of his investigations, and so 1408 doesn't scare him. Once at the hotel, he faces a lot of pushback for trying to stay in the room. He has to face off against Olin, who knows the true horrors of the room and fears it himself greatly. He explains that no one has ever lasted more than an hour, and that a lot of dark things don't even make it into the press.
Well, grievously in its 95-year existence, the hotel has seen 7 jumpers, 4 overdoses, 5 hangings, 3 mutilations.
2 stranglings. General Manager Gerald Olin is well versed in the hotel's tragic history, dryly reciting the docket of carnage like a bookkeeper discussing his ledger.
This is one of the best scenes in the film, and I love how it messes with Mike through the rest of the movie. The room has seen some serious shit, from people mutilating themselves to horrific suicides and some really strange natural deaths. It makes you wonder why they haven't just filled the whole thing up with concrete. Now, Mike's fight with the room becomes epic, but it starts out slow. He remains skeptical for a while, thinking that someone's gotta be in the room setting everything up. But things really start to heat up when the room lets him know that things have only just begun. The next hour is a trip through hell as Mike is tortured physically and emotionally. He eventually faces things that, as a parent, I don't think I could handle. It's John Cusack's performance as Mike Inslin that makes me recommend this movie, despite some of its flaws, like this weird thing that happens in the middle that kind of goes on for too long. This is a movie like I Am Legend or Castaway that really relies on one actor holding the house down, and Cusack really does that well. His descent to the inner circles of hell is really entertaining. And while he gets some support from Jackson, it really is him versus this room. I give this movie a B overall. It's got its pacing issues, the wonky ending, but it's a solid King adaptation in my mind with some really good performances. It's a shame that it gets overlooked so often. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch.
The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror.
I'm going to be talking about a film called The Burning. This came out at a time when a lot of studios were trying to figure out how to capture that slasher spirit of the original Halloween. And of course, Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th series became the dominant force and created its franchise. This little film called The Burning unfortunately did not create a franchise, although it is an amazing film and I would put it up against even the best of the Friday the 13th films. It's all the typical tropes of that time, you know, summer camp, a killer on the loose with some kind of vendetta using a unique weapon, in this case, garden shears. The really cool thing about this particular film is that a good chunk of it is just a camp movie. It's just a bunch of kids having fun and doing things that you do at a summer camp. Little do they realize that there's a killer on the loose, and we end with a brutal climax. The final 20 or 30 minutes of the film is where most of the kills occur, although the opening of the film is also pretty gruesome. I don't want to spoil my favorite part of this film, sort of the ending sequence, although there is a certain scene that is on a boat that most fans consider the best part of the film. I highly recommend it. If you're into the slasher genre, if you're into the Friday the 13th franchise, Halloween, Scream, anything like that, this is a film very much worth checking out. It's unfortunate it didn't get sequels because it definitely set up a great antagonist. And as a matter of fact, if you're a fan of the Friday the 13th films, the ending of part 2, it has similarities to this film, so I highly recommend it. This is definitely a solid A from me. If you're into slasher films and you have not seen The Burning, check it out.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say. The GenreVerse something, 13 days of whatever. Before the modern, cringy girl power we have today.
Don't worry. She's got health.
We had something a little cooler.
1992's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, starring Christy Swanson, Donald Sutherland, Luke Perry, and a few other familiar faces.
Don't we know you guys? Hey, wait a minute. You're the guys from the movie. We hate you guys.
This glorious work of peak feminism came from the brilliant feminist icon mind of Joss Whedon.
This movie does feminism so well, it's surprising to see it score so low. I love the sass.
We're immortal, Buffy. You can do anything.
Oh, yeah? Clap.
I love the comedy.
I'm hungry.
Go home, Ben.
I'm hungry. You're floating. Come on, man. Get away from here.
Buffy is another great example of women kicking ass in films and not making a big deal out of it. It's not cool if you make a big deal out of it. Duh.
This movie serves as like a canon, not canon start for the Buffy we all know and love. It sees Miss Summers get her first watcher, kill her first vampire, and begin to come to terms with her great fashion sense now coming with great power and responsibility.
So yeah, she is like the other girls. I mean, this movie's a great example of we don't keep frenemies.
What? I thought that look was over. Well, it's retro.
No one gets the jacket now, Kimberly. It's great to see Buffy accept her destiny and do it her style. So Kyle, what's your favorite part? 5 words or less.
Best death scene ever. Bitch.
You're gonna wish you died. Ooh, ah, ow, ooh, ah, ah, ah.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the Buffy Amelin scenes. I mean, it's Paul Rubens. He's awesome in this. I would give this movie a B. I mean, it's a lot of fun, 90s nostalgia, and check out Ben Affleck.
I agree. I give it a B. It's not the most perfect vampire film ever, but it's a true classic and worth a watch.
So if you haven't seen this movie yet, go watch it. Like now, this review is over. Like we're done. Just go watch it. And like and subscribe.
The GenreVerse presents. The GenreVerse presents. The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror.
Take Groundhog Day and your favorite slasher flick. They get it on and have a baby. And then they send that baby to college. That's Happy Death Day. So Tree, played by Jessica Roth, is a pain in the ass. She's dealing or not dealing with the loss of her mom, and it's getting in the way of her relationships, like all of them.
Unless you consider dancing on a table, starting 2 fights, and barfing pretzel chunks all over the bar embarrassing.
Please tell me you're kidding.
Oh, and you also rammed your tongue down Nick Sim's throat right in front of Danielle.
So Tree gets stuck in a time loop and keeps dying on her birthday, and she has to find her killer.
Oh, hey, you're up.
She keeps waking up at Carter's dorm. He's played by Israel Broussard. So Carter is Tree's Andy McDowell. He's the love interest, and he helps her try to find her killer.
What were we?
Suspects.
Right, suspects. Okay, so Danielle, Gregory, his wife, Creepy Tim. Oh, that tiny girl from TJ Maxx that I got fired. And maybe the Uber driver that I spit on last week. I think his name was What? Nobody's perfect.
With other slashers, you've got like this terrifying killer, but with this, it's the mascot's mask, which is a baby. It's really weird. She kind of goes through like the 5 stages of grief, and my favorite of hers is acceptance, and she has a lot of fun during acceptance. Yeah, go home in the nude. No one's gonna remember. So while she's trying to get out of the time loop, she's having to face her bad decisions and her suspect list, like a bitchy sorority sister.
Sisters don't keep secrets.
I'm totally having deja vu right now.
Oh, I have it all the time. It's supposed to mean like someone's thinking about you while they're masturbating. I have it at least 5 times a day.
A serial killer. That guy.
Hey, sweetie. Fucking guy.
And her jealous friend, who happens to like that guy. I would give this movie an A. It's hilarious, lots of twists and turns, and I want to shout out to Carter. When we find out that he does not have sex with Tree while she's drunk, I mean... And I gotta say, thanks Janet for recommending this movie, and I gotta recommend it too. It's a solid watch.
The GenreVerse presents 13 Days of Terror.
13 Ghosts is a 91-minute long lesson in how to not f**k around with pointless plot and get on with the f**king gore. What's it about? This old dude wants some superpower. He employs Shaggy, a psychic, to help him track down and trap ghosts to get the said power, and then his nephew, Monk, and his family get involved, caught in the middle of it all. And that's it. Okay, there's a little bit more with the mom, wife, and then the shady stuff with the ghost machine, but this movie really is all killer and no filler. It's so not filler, they completely reject world building and character development. But you're not looking for that. You're looking for blood and guts, man. 13 Ghosts has it. I mean, look at the ghosts themselves.
The firstborn son, found woman, late child and the dire mother, torso.
Dude, that's f***ing brutal. My favorite's the hammer. I mean, the dude looks like walking pain. Kind of like me, only I'm not the cool walking pain. I'm just old and broken. These ghosts have some fucked up stories, man, and their bodies show these stories in graphic and practical detail. I mean, sure, there's going to be a little bit of CGI and post touch-up, but the makeup, the costumes, like all of that is real. And the sets are pretty badass too. And think about the logistics here. It must have sucked filming around all that glass. And not only do we get the gruesome ghosts, but we get some gnarly death scenes, man. I mean, my favorite scene in this movie is a death scene, but it's a bit too graphic to show in its entirety. So let's split and head to the next topic. Look, Tony Shalhoub's Arthur and Matthew Lillard's Dennis, they're the living stars of this film, and I mean living, that they're not ghosts. Lillard's great in everything that he does, even if it's not a great movie itself. If you want to see a movie I think is actually underrated with Lillard, check out Wing Commander. This movie is honestly like a C+ overall, but it's one I recommend for the production value and the gore and effects. This isn't a waste of time C+. It's the C+ someone worked really hard on, and they deserve a high five for it, or at least 91 minutes of your time. Thank you so much for watching this video, any others of our 13 Days of Terror you may have seen, and if you watched all 13, thank you very, very much. Give us a thumbs up or down, leave some comments, suggestions, and of course, subscribe. Happy Halloween.